Okay, in part one, it started in 2012, and I forgot to mention that I had gave birth to my daughter in March of 2013. 3 years prior to that, I had given birth to my first child, which he was also born a micro preemie. I had Romeo in June of 2010. He was born at 25 weeks and 3 days, weighing only 1 pound and 11 ounces. Now, this is when I really started to pay attention to numerology. Like, I had been seeing numbers before, especially like during this time I was working at Target, and I would start to notice them then, like on the clock and on receipts and things like that, because I was a cashier and I worked in the customer service area, which was called guest services. But yeah, I had noticed that I had started seeing repeated numbers. But when I gave birth to him and my son came out 1 pound and 11 ounces, that's when I started to really study numerology or whatever. And I didn't study it like I did today, but I digress. I'll make a whole nother video about that. But I gave birth to him. Um, he was in a NICU, and of course there were many things going on. It was my first time as a mom. Then, being that it was my first time as a mom, and then my child was a micro preemie, that had to stay in a NICU because he was born with all these health problems. And that is what I was referencing in part one, why I was experiencing postpartum depression. And there was a many other things going on too, like, between work and then being his father. It was just, different issues that, that had led to me experiencing postpartum depression. And so, but during his time in the NICU, this is when I had first asked the doctors, what is his chance of survival? And this is when I found out the rank of survival rates as it pertained to race, with babies being born early. And the doctors had told me, and I say doctors because every time I was in the NICU, there were like a team of doctors and nurses that I would meet with. And so that's when I found out that he had a high chance of survival. That the rank was African American girls, then African American boys, then white girls, and then white boys. Okay, and I didn't ask why. I didn't ask why that time. And so I was, you know, stunned to say the least. Um, that I had given birth to my second child in the same exact way. And not only was it in the same exact way, but she was born 2 weeks earlier than her brother was. But honestly, I wasn't even scared. Like when I had Romeo, I was scared. But when I had Mira, I wasn't even scared because there was no doubt in my mind that she would survive. No doubt. Because she had the highest rate. With Romeo, it was a lot of praying and, a lot of things. And then to lose my nephew, I was just, it was so much going on with me, inside of me, because there were things like many doctor's appointments and, things that I was experiencing at that time, just with my son. And they had just started, like, he had just started being released from doctors and things. So I felt like I was getting better as it refers to the depression. But then bam, I lose my nephew. And I failed to mention that my nephew was only 3 years old. And so it was a lot. To say the least. It was a lot for me at that time. How old was I? God, early 20s. I had Romeo at 21, so I was 23. I was 23 when Curtis died, yes. And then I had turned 24 right after I had Ramiro. So, yes, I was young, you know, and doing my best to cope with my feelings and emotions the best way I knew how. And I turned to alcohol at the time.